Welcome to the Soul and Ebony Love Stories. The channel will bring you stories of strong bonds, cultural differences, passionate love, and unforgettable dramatic events. If you love interracial love stories and cinematic storytelling, then this is the place for you. Enjoy listening. Please subscribe to the channel to hear more great stories. They tried to kill me 3 hours after I filed the lawsuit, and that was the moment I realized I was not just fighting a corporation. I was standing in the way of an empire. I still remember the sound first. Tires screaming against wet asphalt. A black SUV jumping the curb like it had no intention of stopping. I ran. Not gracefully. Not strategically. Just instinct. My heels snapped on the pavement. My breath tore through my chest, and every survival instinct I had ever ignored suddenly came alive. The car did not slow down. It adjusted. Followed. Calculated. That was when it hit me. This was not intimidation. This was elimination. My name is Monique Harris, human rights attorney. I build cases against powerful people who believe the law does not apply to them. Most of them threaten me. Some try to buy me. A few try to ruin me. But this was different. This was precise, clean, professional. The kind of move that comes from people who have erased others before and never lost sleep over it. I cut through an alley, my lungs burning, my pulse hammering so loud I could barely hear anything else. Then suddenly, silence. The engine stopped. The world froze for half a second too long. I pressed myself against the wall, forcing my breathing to slow. Think. You are still alive. That means something went wrong. Or someone stopped them. I did not understand that part yet. Not until the next morning. By sunrise, the news was already shifting. Quiet pressure. Calls not returned. Meetings canceled. Even my own firm started pulling away, their voices careful, distant. Monique, maybe you should reconsider the scope of this case. Reconsider. That word again. It always shows up when fear starts spreading. The lawsuit I filed was not small. It targeted a logistics corporation tied to multiple human rights violations overseas. Missing workers. Illegal detentions. Entire communities displaced without records. On paper, it was a corporate case. But I knew better. Money like that does not move without protection. And then I found the name. U Group. Not in headlines. Not directly. Buried in ownership layers, shell companies, cross-border filings. But it was there. Clear enough for someone who knew how to read between lines. The U family. Mafia. And at the top of that structure stood one man known for never tolerating threats. Yu Kongdae's father. That was when everything clicked into place. I was not attacked because I was wrong. I was attacked because I was right. Later that day, I received confirmation in the most indirect way possible. A source who refused to meet me, refused to call, but left one message through an encrypted channel. Order came from above. You are marked. No explanation. No warning beyond that. Just fact. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling something settle deep inside me. Not fear. Not anymore. Clarity. Because if they wanted me gone, it meant I had already gone too far for them to ignore. And that changed everything. Across the city, in a world I had never stepped into, Yu Kongdae was reading the same report. The same order. The same instruction written in cold, efficient language. Eliminate her. He was supposed to approve it. Instead, he paused. And in that hesitation, something shifted that neither of us could see yet. Because I was still alive. And that was their first mistake. By the second day, the city feels different. Not because anything has changed on the surface, but because I know I am being watched. You ever get that feeling? Like the air itself is tracking your movement. Like every reflection in a window might be someone else's eyes. I do not jump. I do not panic. But I adjust. I stop taking predictable routes. I change my schedule. I memorize exits in every building I enter. Because this is no longer about winning a case. This is about staying alive long enough to finish it. My phone starts lighting up less. Colleagues who once praised my work suddenly go quiet. One partner calls me into his office, shuts the door, and lowers his voice like we are discussing something illegal. Monique, this is bigger than we thought, he says. I Almost laugh. Bigger than we thought. No. It is exactly as big as I thought. You're just now catching up. We cannot protect you if this escalates, he continues. There it is. Not concern. Liability. I nod slowly, already understanding what comes next. Take a leave. Step back. Let someone else handle it. I meet his eyes, steady. There is no one else, I say. He does not argue. Because he knows I am right. That afternoon, I return to my apartment and immediately notice something off. Nothing is out of place, but everything feels touched. The air is wrong. The silence is too clean. I do not move further inside. I stand at the doorway scanning. Then I step back out and close the door without entering. Lesson learned. They do not always need to kill you. Sometimes they just need you to know they can reach you. I spend the night somewhere else. Temporary. Anonymous. My laptop open. Documents spread across the small table. The case still moving forward because stopping is not an option. The evidence I have already gathered is enough to damage them, but not enough to destroy them. And I do not intend to damage. I intend to dismantle. That is when I feel it again. That presence. Not close. Not immediate. But there. Watching. Across the street, a black car sits idle longer than it should. I pretend not to notice. I shift my position slightly, using the reflection in the glass to study it. No movement inside. No obvious threat. But it does not leave. Then, after exactly 12 minutes, it drives away. Too precise. Too controlled. Someone is not trying to kill me tonight. Someone is studying me. That realization sits heavy, but not entirely unwelcome. Because if someone is watching instead of attacking, it means something has changed on their side too. The next morning, I make a decision. If they want to play this game in the shadows, I will pull it into the light. I walk into the courthouse with my head high, file my next motion, and make sure it is loud enough to be noticed. Expanded claims. Additional evidence. Broader jurisdiction. I force the case forward in a way that cannot be quietly buried. Let them react. Let them expose themselves. Later that day, I finally meet him. Not in a dramatic confrontation. Not in some cinematic moment. Just outside the courthouse, as I step down the stairs, I feel it before I see him. That shift in the air again. Controlled. Intentional. When I look up, he is already there. Yukong Dae. He does not introduce himself. He does not need to. Everything about him is unmistakable. The stillness. The precision. The way people unconsciously give him space without realizing why. He stands a few feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. So you're not running, he says. His voice is calm. Neutral. But there is something under it. Curiosity. I tilt my head slightly, studying him the way I would study any opposing force. You expected me to? Yes. And you still tried to kill me anyway? A pause. Not defensive. Not offended. Measured. That was not my decision, he replies. I let that sit for a second, then step closer, just enough to close the distance without entering his space fully. But it is your family, I say. Which means you either control it or you do not. His eyes sharpen slightly at that. Interesting. For a moment, neither of us speaks. People move around us, unaware that something far more dangerous than a courtroom battle is unfolding in plain sight. You have evidence, he says finally. It is not a question. I hold his gaze. Enough. Not enough to win. Not yet. Another pause. Then something shifts. Subtle. Almost invisible. You should stop, he says. There is no threat in his tone. No force. Just fact. I almost smile. That is not how this works. His gaze lingers on me a second longer than necessary. Like he is recalculating something. Then he steps back. Then you will not survive it, he says quietly. I do not move. I already did, I reply. That lands. I see it. Not surprise. Recognition. He turns and walks away without another word, disappearing into the same controlled silence he arrived in. I watch him go, my mind already racing ahead, because that was not a warning. That was an evaluation. And he just realized something his family has not. I am not afraid. That night, I sit alone again, reviewing the files, the patterns, the connections. The case is bigger now, more dangerous, but also clearer. They still think I am the one being hunted. They still think I am reacting. They are wrong. I close the file slowly, leaning back in my chair, letting the weight of it all settle into something sharper, focused. Because I am not the prey in this story. I am the one drawing them out. And if they keep coming, I will make sure they walk straight into the trap I am building for them. By the third week, everything becomes a negotiation, even silence. I stop thinking in terms of safety and start thinking in terms of positioning. Every move I make now has weight. Every word, every filing, every appearance in public is calculated to force pressure onto the Yu family from angles they cannot easily control. And yet, the most dangerous shift does not come from the case. It comes from him. Yu Kongdae stops being a shadow. He becomes a presence. At first, it is subtle. A car that appears before I leave a building. A route that suddenly feels safer without explanation. Men who watch from a distance, not like predators, but like guards. I do not acknowledge it immediately, but I understand what it means. The kill order has not been fully withdrawn. It has been complicated. One night I test it. I leave later than usual, taking a route I have never used before, cutting through a quieter part of the city where visibility is low and escape options are limited. It is reckless, deliberate. If they are still trying to eliminate me, this is where they would do it. Halfway down the street, I hear footsteps behind me. Fast. Closing distance. I do not run this time. I turn. 2 men. Not subtle. Not cautious. This is not surveillance. This is execution. Before they reach me, another figure steps between us. Effortless. Controlled. Kongdae. The street stills. The 2 men hesitate, not because they are unsure, but because they recognize him. One of them lowers his gaze slightly, just enough to show hierarchy. You are not authorized, Kongdae says. His voice is quiet, but it carries absolute authority. The men exchange a glance. Order came from above. One replies carefully. I am above you, Kongdae says. No raised voice. No threat. Just fact. The tension snaps. The men step back. Retreat. Gone within seconds. I exhale slowly, not from relief, but from confirmation. The war is no longer theoretical. It is internal. Kongdae turns to me, his expression unreadable. You should not be here. And yet, I reply, I am. His gaze sharpens slightly, but there is no irritation in it. Only assessment. You are forcing escalation, he says. I am forcing exposure, I correct. A pause. Then something shifts again. You are not wrong, he admits. That is the moment the alliance begins, even if neither of us says it out loud. We do not shake hands. We do not make promises. But from that night forward, our actions align. We meet in controlled environments at first. Quiet offices. Private rooms. Spaces where information can move without being intercepted. He does not offer me everything. I do not ask for trust. What we build is not trust. It is necessity. You are targeting the outer structure, he says during one of our meetings, his eyes scanning the documents I have laid out. That will cause damage, but it will not collapse the system. I am not aiming for damage, I reply. I am mapping the core. He studies me for a moment longer than necessary. You are planning to dismantle it. Yes. A silence follows. Not disagreement. Not resistance. Recognition. That will destroy my family, he says. I meet his gaze steady. Your family is already destroying itself. Another pause. Then he nods. Slow. Decisive. From that point, the flow of information changes. What I once had to piece together through fragmented data now comes into focus with precision. He does not hand me evidence directly. He guides me, points out inconsistencies, redirects my attention to areas I might have overlooked. It is careful, strategic, enough to accelerate my case without exposing his involvement. And in return, I do something just as dangerous. I let him stay, not as an enemy, Not quite as an ally, but as something in between. The more we work together, the clearer it becomes. He is not like his father, not driven by blind control, not interested in maintaining power at any cost. He understands systems the way I do, sees the weaknesses, the inevitability of collapse when something is built on exploitation. You knew this would happen, I say one night, looking up from a set of internal records he helped me trace. Yes, he replies. And you stayed. I was waiting. For what? He meets my eyes, and for the first time, there is something unguarded in his expression. For someone who would not be afraid to break it. The words settle between us, heavier than anything we have exchanged so far. I look back at the documents, but my focus has shifted. Because this is no longer just a case. This is a turning point. Not just for his family. For him. For me. For everything connected to this system. You understand what happens if I win, I say quietly. Yes. You lose everything. Another pause. Then, without hesitation, not everything. I do not ask what he means. Because I already know. The room falls into silence again. But it is different now. Not cautious. Not distant. Connected. Dangerously so. Days pass and the pressure builds on both sides. The case grows stronger. The family grows more aggressive. Internal fractures begin to show. Decisions become rushed. Mistakes start appearing where there were none before. They are losing control. And they know it. One evening, as I prepare another filing, my phone buzzes with a single message from an unknown number. Final warning. Withdraw or be erased. I stare at the screen for a moment, then set the phone down without responding. Across the room, Kong-dae watches me. They will not stop, he says. I know. They will escalate. I know. Feet. Then he steps closer, his voice lower now. Then you need to decide if this is worth dying for. I turn to face him fully, my expression calm, unwavering. This is not about dying, I say. It is about winning. Silence. Then something shifts in him again. Not hesitation. Commitment. Then I stand with you, he says. Simple. Final. No conditions. And just like that, the line is crossed. Not quietly. Not safely. But completely. Because now, this is no longer a case against a corporation. It is a war against a family. And the heir to that family just chose my side. By the time the court date is set, the war is no longer hidden. It is everywhere. In the way headlines start shifting, cautiously at first, then more boldly. In the way investors begin pulling back from companies tied, even indirectly, to the U Group. In the way people inside the organization start choosing sides without saying it out loud. Pressure builds not in one place, but everywhere at once. And pressure, when applied correctly, does not just crack systems. It reveals what they are truly made of. The moment Yu Kong-dae's father realizes what is happening, everything escalates. I do not see him first. I feel him. The shift hits through the case files before it ever reaches the streets. Legal teams that once delayed now attack. Motions flood the court, aggressive, calculated, designed to overwhelm rather than defend. Witnesses begin disappearing from schedules. Not gone, but unreachable. Silent. Controlled. And then the message comes. Not anonymous this time. Direct. You have crossed a line you cannot return from. I read it once, then set the phone down. Across the room, Kong-dae is already watching me. He does not need to ask. He knows, I say. Yes, he replies. A pause. Then, quieter, heavier, and he will not tolerate this. I meet his gaze. Neither will I. That is the moment the war becomes personal. Within 48 hours, everything tightens. Security around me increases, not subtly anymore. The protection Kong-dae once kept at a distance is now visible, deliberate. Men positioned where they can intervene, not just observe. Routes controlled. Access limited. You are making me a liability, I tell him one night. You already are, he answers. I almost smile. Meanwhile, inside his family, the fracture widens into something irreversible. Word spreads that the heir is no longer aligned. that he has chosen an outsider over blood, over power, over legacy. That kind of betrayal is not forgiven. It is erased. They are preparing to remove me, Kong Dae says one evening, his tone calm in a way that makes it more dangerous, not less. I look up from the documents. And you are still here. Yes. Why? A pause. Then simply, because this matters. Not the family. Not the empire. This. The case. Me. I do not respond right away, because anything I say in that moment would shift something neither of us is ready to define. Instead, I turn back to the evidence. Because the case is reaching its peak. The courtroom becomes the new battlefield. No shadows. No silence. Everything exposed under bright lights and official records. Their legal team is flawless. Precise. Ruthless. They challenge every claim, every piece of evidence, every witness. But they are reacting. And that is how I know we are winning. I stand in that courtroom and present the pattern. Not just isolated incidents. Not just accusations. A system. A structure built to exploit, to conceal, to profit from human rights violations while hiding behind legitimate business fronts. Every document connects. Every transfer aligns. Every testimony reinforces the same truth. And for the first time I see it. Fear. Not in the lawyers. In the observers. In the people who understand what happens if this holds. Because if this case succeeds, it does not just damage the Yu family. It exposes the entire network around them. During a recess, I step into the hallway, the noise of the courtroom fading behind me. Kong Dae is already there, leaning against the wall, his expression unreadable. You are close, he says. I know. They will try something before the end. They already are. A pause. Then he straightens, stepping closer. If it comes down to it, he stops. I wait. If it comes down to it, he continues, you choose yourself. I shake my head slightly. That is not how this ends. His jaw tightens, just enough to show the conflict beneath his control. You do not understand what they are willing to do. I hold his gaze. I understand exactly what they are willing to do. Feet. And I am still here. Silence stretches between us, heavy with everything unspoken. Then his phone vibrates. He checks it. And for the first time since I met him, something shifts in his expression. Not fear. Not hesitation. Something colder. They made their move, he says. How? They are pulling everything inward. Consolidating control. Cutting off external exposure. I process that quickly. That means they are preparing for impact. Yes. And losing confidence. Another pause. Then, quietly, and losing me. That lands harder than anything else. Not because of what it means for him, but because of what it confirms. The family no longer sees him as an heir. They see him as a threat. Back inside the courtroom, the final phase begins. The judge calls for closing arguments. The room stills. Every eye focused. Every outcome balanced on what happens next. I step forward. Not as someone being hunted. Not as someone surviving. But as someone who has already decided how this ends. I lay out the truth one final time. Clear. Precise. Undeniable. Not just what they did, but how they built it. How they hid it. How they believed they would never be challenged. And then I say the one thing they cannot control. This system does not collapse because it is attacked. It collapses because it cannot withstand the truth. Silence follows. Deep. Unavoidable. And in that silence, I feel it. The shift. The moment everything changes. Across the room, I see it in Kong Dae's eyes. His father is no longer in control. He just does not know it yet. And when he realizes it will already be too late. The courtroom is silent when the verdict is read. The kind of silence that does not feel empty but heavy, like the air itself is waiting to break. I stand still, hands steady at my sides, eyes forward, but inside, everything sharpens to a single point. This is it. This is where power either holds or shatters. Asset freeze approved. The words land like a detonation. Not loud. Not dramatic. Final. For a split second, no one reacts. Then the room fractures. Voices rise. Chairs shift. Legal teams scramble to recover something that no longer exists. Because this is not just a loss. This is paralysis. Every account tied to the U Group, every channel, every hidden layer of wealth frozen. Their empire does not collapse in flames. It stops breathing. I do not move. I do not smile. I just stand there and let the weight of it settle exactly where it belongs. Across the courtroom I see him. Yu Kongdae. Still. Unshaken. Watching me, not the chaos around him. Not the fall of everything he was born into. Me. And then slowly I turn. Because there is one more person who needs to understand what just happened. His father. For the first time, the man who ordered my death does not look untouchable. His composure is still there, but it is thinner now. Cracked at the edges. His eyes lock onto mine, and in that moment, there is no distance, no protection, no illusion left between us. He underestimated me. That was his mistake. I step forward, just enough to close the gap without saying a word. I do not need to speak. The verdict already did. Around us, the system he built begins to unravel in real time. Calls that will not connect. Orders that no longer carry weight. Power slipping through his fingers not because someone took it, but because the law finally caught up to it. Fear moves through the room. Not toward me. Toward him. That is the difference. That is the shift. From the side, I feel Kongdae step closer, not behind me, not ahead of me, but beside me. Equal. Intentional. He does not look at his father. He looks forward. And that says everything. The family that once saw me as nothing now has no choice but to see me clearly, not as a target, not as a threat, as the one who ended them. Later, outside the courthouse, the noise fades into something distant, almost irrelevant. The world keeps moving. Cars pass. People talk. Life continues, unaware that an empire just stopped existing in the way it once did. I stand at the top of the steps, the city stretching out in front of me. You won, Kongdae says quietly. I glance at him. No, I reply. Justice did. A pause. Then softer, more personal, and now. I hold his gaze for a moment, seeing not the heir, not the enemy, but the man who chose to stand on the right side when it mattered most. Now, I say, we decide what comes next, because this was never just about taking power down. It was about proving that power can be challenged. So tell me, if you had to choose between blood and truth, would you have the courage to do what he did, or what I did? I was supposed to disappear quietly, just another name erased by power no one could challenge. But they made one mistake. They thought fear would stop me. They thought silence would break me. Instead, it forced me to become something stronger, sharper, and impossible to control. In the end, it was not just about winning a case. It was about proving that no empire is untouchable when someone dares to stand against it. And sometimes, the people you are told to fear are the ones who choose to stand beside you. So now I want to ask you, when everything is on the line, would you choose safety or truth? If this story pulled you in, hit like so I know. Subscribe for more powerful stories where justice fights back. And tell me in the comments what would you have done?